let's study about the next topic, that is the main part of the blood circulatory system, that is heart. As you all know that we have already discussed that we have a lot of things in blood, like we have nutrients, we have gases, we have hormones, we have enzymes, we have a lot of things in that, and those things are required not only by the blood cells, it is required by all the body cells. As you know that our body is made up of so many cells, so all the cells required those substances. Now the question is how those substances reach those blood cells. That means how those substances reach the all body cells. Obviously it reaches through blood. It reaches through blood. But if I say that something is there in the blood, right, and it is required in the feet, so how it is going to move there? It is okay that it is going to move with the help of blood. But for that movement, there has to be a certain pressure in the blood. Then only it can move down towards the feet. Now, who is going to provide that pressure? Obviously, it is going to be provided by the heart. That is the reason we call the heart as a muscular pumping organ. So, I think it's clear that why we are learning heart. Because to pump blood, we need a certain pressure. And who is going to create that pressure? That is created by heart. So, heart is the main organ of the blood circulatory system. Now, let's move on to the structure of heart. Right. See, heart possesses the pericardial cavity. Heart possesses a certain cavity called as pericardial cavity. One more thing I missed, that heart is a visceral organ. As you already know that visceral organs are those organs which do not function according to our will. Right. So that means their working is controlled by autonomic nervous system. So heart is also one of the visceral organ, that is, it functions according to its own will, not according to our will. Right. So I think it's clear that we are already aware about its position also, and we are aware how it looks like. So moving on to the structure again, heart has a pericardial cavity. This is how it looks like. Now, outer to it, there is a membrane that surrounds the pericardial cavity. As you can see that this is a membrane surrounding the pericardial cavity. This membrane is called as pericardium. So, this is called as pericardium. So, I think it's clear. One more thing, see, besides human, heart is present in almost every species. Even if we look at the invertebrates like grasshopper, heart is present in them also. Though the function is not that complex, but still it is present. So, heart is present almost in all the organisms. Right. So, pericardium is clear, pericardial fluid is clear, visceral organ term is clear now. So, let's move ahead now. So, if we look at the heart, there is a special kind of muscles which are present in heart, and they are called as cardiac muscles. Whenever you come across word like cardiac, that means it is associated with heart. So whenever you come across the word cardiac, please relate it to the heart because it is linked directly or indirectly with the heart only. So we have muscles. So these muscles are present in heart. That is the reason they are called as cardiac muscles. What special property they possess? They are non-fatigue muscles. Now, what do I mean by it? Non-fatigue muscles, it means that that is the reason they keep on contracting and relaxing throughout the life. And as you all know, that heart keeps on beating throughout our lifespan. So, this is just possible because of the presence of non-fatigue muscle, that is cardiac muscle. So, if we look at the internal structure of the heart, you will see that heart is divided into 4 chambers. You can see that there are 4 chambers present. So, human heart is 4 chambered, right? 2 are atriums and 2 are ventricles. So, these 2 are atriums, and on the lower side you can see these 2 are ventricles. So, before moving ahead, I would like to tell you that heart is roughly divided into 2 sides, right? So, this is heart. So, one side is the left side, this one, and one side is the right side. So, we have left side and we have right side. Now moving on to the chambers, I told you we have 4 chambers. 2 are atriums and 2 are ventricles. Upper parts are called as atriums and the lower ones, they are called as ventricles. So now we have 4 chambers and we have 2 sides, left and right. So how we are going to define them? So on the upper side, we have, this is the left atrium, this is the left atrium and this is the left ventricle. Now on the side, we have, this is the right atrium and this is the right ventricle. So I think it's clear now, left atrium, left ventricle, right atrium, right ventricle. Got it? Now you can see that there is a division between 2 atriums. There is a division between 2 atriums and this division is called as interauricular septum. Interauricular septum. Inter means in between, right? Auricular, that is, it is in between the auricles, or you can say the atrium. Septum is a division. So 2 auricles, or you can say 2 atriums, it is always advised to term these chambers as atrium, not auricles, right? So it's better to use the term atrium instead of auricle. So 2 atriums, they are separated by interauricular septum, right? And you can see 2 ventricles also on the bottom side. They are also separated by a certain section. So 2 ventricles are separated by interventricular septum. Again, inter means within, ventricular between the ventricles, and septum is a division. So 2 auricles by interauricular septum and 2 ventricles by interventricular septum. Now if you look at the structure, you can easily make out that auricles and the ventricles, even they are separated by a certain part. So the separation that separates the auricles from the ventricles, that is called as interauricular ventricular septum. Again, inter, that means between, auricular ventricular, that is, it is a division which lies between the atrium and the ventricles. Septum, as I have already told you, it is a you can say a separation, division which is separating the chambers. So 2 auricles, intraauricular septum, it's clear. 2 ventricles, interventricular septum, and auricles and ventricles by interauricular ventricular septum, also called as AV septum. AV septum. So these are the divisions. Now in AV septum, you can see that there are flap-like structures present. You can easily see that the septum is containing a certain flap-like, or you can say a lid-like structures. These structures are called as valves. What are they called as? They are called as valves. Now on the left hand side, you can see that there are 2 flap-like structures present. And on the right, you can see that there are 3 flap-like structures which are present. So on the left hand side, these valves are called as bicuspid valves. Bi means 2 flaps, cuspid valves. And on the right hand side, as there are 3 flap-like structures, so we call them as tricuspid valves. So I think it's clear. On the left side, bicuspid, and on the right side, it is tricuspid valves. Now the question is, why these flap-like structures are present? You must be thinking like that. So let me clear it out, that valves are actually a flap-like structures. This I have already told you, because this is how they look like, and their function is to prevent the backflow of blood. They will prevent the backflow of blood, and this I am going to discuss when we will do the working of heart. So as for now, you can just learn that they are the flap-like structures, right, and they just prevent the backflow of blood. And now how they prevent or why it is required, this we will take up when we will study the working of heart. Now we move on to the the right atrium. Now in the right atrium, you can see that there is a cup-shaped structure which is present. Look at this. You can see that there is a cup-shaped structure which is present in the right atrium. To this cup-shaped structure, it is sinoauricular node. It is sinoauricular node, also called as SA node, because the name is quite big, sinoauricular. So you can write it as SA node. Got it? Now, why this SA node is present in it, or what function it is performing, or is it a very important part, or it is just a general part of heart. So let me tell you that SA node plays a very important function. You all must have heard about the pacemakers. You must have heard about that somebody has gone through a surgery where his pacemaker is, you can say, replaced, or some artificial pacemaker is inserted into its heart. So what is pacemaker? Pacemaker is actually the part of heart which is first to generate the electric impulse in heart, and it plays a very important role. Heart can function only because of this pacemaker. So pacemaker is just like we drive vehicles, and for driving vehicles you need a fuel. Likewise, for the pumping of heart we need something to generate the electric impulse, and that fuel or that generation of electric impulse comes from this SA node. So SA node, that means a pacemaker, plays a very important role. You must be thinking that one vessel is more than enough to carry the blood, right? But it's not like that, because when the blood is flowing through the heart, there is a certain pressure, and when the you can say impure blood comes to the heart, there is a certain pressure. So we need different type of vessels in order to carry them. And one more thing, like I told you we have arteries, veins and capillaries. Through arteries, the exchange of substances cannot take place, and even through veins, the substances cannot diffuse in and out. So we have the third type of vessel, that is the capillaries, through which the exchange of substances can occur. So that is the reason, depending upon their functions or depending upon their characteristics and the nature, we need to have these three vessels associated with the blood circulatory system, right? So we have arteries, we have the veins, and we have the capillaries. One more thing I would like to tell you, that as I told you that we have left side and we have right side of the heart, left and the right, right? So left hand side, it deals with the oxygenated blood. Now what is oxygenated blood? As the name suggests, it has a prefix oxygen. That means it carries the oxygenated blood, which means that it has more concentration of oxygen and less concentration of carbon dioxide. This is what we call as pure blood. So you can say that left hand side carries pure blood, or left hand side carries oxygenated blood, one and the same thing, right? So left hand side basically deals with oxygenated blood, also called as pure blood, and right hand side, it deals with the deoxygenated blood. As the name suggests, deoxy, that means it has less concentration of oxygen and more concentration of carbon dioxide. That is the reason I am calling it as deoxygenated blood. Got it? So left hand side deals with oxygenated blood, and right hand side, it deals with deoxygenated blood. Now let's move on to the vessels again. So three types of vessels: arteries, veins and capillaries. Let's talk about arteries and veins first. See, arteries are red in color. Arteries are red in color. Now why they are red in color? Because they carry the pure blood. They carry the oxygenated blood, right? And one more thing, it carries the blood from the heart to the different parts of the body. Now let's talk about arteries and veins first, right? See, the arteries are red in color and the veins are blue in color. Now why there is a color difference? The color difference is just because the arteries carries the pure blood and it runs from the heart to different body parts. And veins, they are blue in color because they are carrying the deoxygenated blood. That is the blood which has lesser amount of oxygen and more amount of carbon dioxide. Right, that is the reason it appears blue in color. So veins are blue and arteries are red in color. Arteries possess thick walls. Now the reason being, see, they are carrying the blood from the heart to the different parts, and the blood which is pumped by the heart has a great pressure, or you can say high pressure. So in order to withstand that pressure, they are thick walled. But in comparison to arteries, veins possess thinner walls, because heart pumps the blood with the pressure, but that much pressure is not given by the body cells. When they are giving out deoxygenated blood, when they are making the blood deoxygenated, they are not pumping that blood, right? So arteries are thick walled and the veins, they possess thin walls. Now what about capillaries? See, if I have this as artery and this as vein, right? So they are not blunt at their ends. Both are interconnected. You can see that if this is artery and this is vein, there are certain minute connections which are connecting the arteries and the veins. And these thin walled vessels, they are called as capillaries. What are they called as? They are called as capillaries, and they possess very, very thin walls. The reason being because the exchange of substances is going to occur just through the capillary walls, and that is the reason they are quite thin. They are very, very thin walled in order to facilitate the diffusion. Due to this, the diffusion rate increases. The oxygen and the nutrients which are present in the blood can diffuse out through capillaries, and whatever is there out can be put back into the blood. So that means the diffusion of substances can occur through a capillary wall, and that is the reason it is quite thin, or you can say it is very, very thin walled. So I think it's clear about arteries, veins and capillaries. Now we have the biggest artery in our body, and the biggest artery is the one which originates from the left ventricle. And what is that? That is the aorta. That is the aorta. So aorta brings the oxygenated blood, and then aorta has a tendency to divide into the arteries. Arteries divides into the more thinner vessels, that is the arterioles, and then we have capillaries like this. And if I talk about the veins, so there are two largest veins in the body, that is the superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava, which brings the deoxygenated blood. Superior vena cava brings the deoxygenated blood from the head, chest to the heart, or you can say the parts which are above the heart. So it brings the deoxygenated blood from the upper part of the body. And we have the inferior vena cava, which brings the deoxygenated blood from the lower part of the body to the heart. Got it? So two bigger veins, one is superior vena cava, other is inferior vena cava, and the biggest artery, that is the aorta. So I think about vessels, it is almost clear. So now let's move on to the working of heart. Now let's study about the working of heart. So in order to simplify the working, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a flow chart for you. Right. So this is what we have, that is the flow chart, and through this flow chart I'll simplify the working of heart. So in this flow chart you can see that on the upper side I have lungs, I have placed lungs. On the lower side we have the cell or a tissue, whatever you can say, because everything which is getting exchanged is exchanged between the capillary blood and the cell or a tissue. So I have placed cell here. Now in mid you can see we have the 4 chambers of heart. So that means we have lungs, we have 4 chambers of heart, that means a complete heart, and we have the cell. Now what happens? We know that oxygenation of blood takes place in lungs. We have already done in the second part of life process, that is respiration, that the blood is purified in the lungs. So the purified blood, that is the blood which has more concentration of oxygen and lesser concentration of carbon dioxide, or you can say almost nil concentration of carbon dioxide, is called as pure blood, and it starts moving from lungs to the upper part of the heart, that is in the left atrium. It starts filling in the left atrium. As more and more blood flows into the left atrium, that means volume of blood is increasing, and due to this the pressure of blood is also increasing. So more and more blood moves, more and more volume is increased, and more pressure is increased. Now due to that pressure, what happens? The bicuspid walls, they get open. So when they get open, what happens? That means the blood from the left atrium, now due to opening of these walls, it starts flowing into the left ventricle. Now the filling of left ventricle takes place. Now as more and more blood flows into the left ventricle, more and more volume is increased, and due to which more and more pressure is increased. Now due to this high pressure, what happens? The bicuspid walls, they get closed. And because we know that pressure is always exerted on the lower side, So due to this, the bicuspid valves get closed and the semilunar valve of aorta, it opens. Now what happens? The blood starts moving from the left ventricle to the aorta. Right. Now again, as more volume of blood increases in aorta, the pressure increases, and due to this, the semilunar valve also gets closed. Right. So now blood is reached the aorta. Now I have already told you that aorta is the largest artery of the body. It divides into the smaller arteries and finally into more smaller arteries which are called as arterioles, and then we have the capillaries. Right. So I am going to write that steps here, that blood flows from the left atrium to the left ventricle, right, and how it moves, because bicuspid valve opens. Now the blood flows from the left ventricle to the aorta, right, because the volume of blood increases in left ventricle, the pressure increases, due to which the semilunar valve opens. So it moves into the aorta. Right, but when the pressure in the aorta increases, the semilunar valve get closed. Now aorta divides into arteries, arteries into arterioles, and finally we have the very thin walled vessels that are called as capillaries. And I already told you that capillaries are formed whenever there is the cell or a tissue around. Now we have a cell here, so that means capillaries are formed here. Now the blood in the capillaries possess more content of oxygen and lesser content of carbon dioxide, right? And we all know that the oxygen gas is required by all body cells, and along with oxygen, the nutrients which are present in the blood or hormones or enzymes, whatever is needed by the cell, that can move out, diffuse out into the cell, and it is taken up by the cell. So the oxygen concentration is more in the capillary blood but less in the inside the cell. So oxygen will move from the blood to the cell, and the cell possess more concentration of carbon dioxide. We know that the gases moves from their higher concentration to the lower concentration. So that means the oxygen was higher in the blood. That is the reason it diffused out. But the carbon dioxide is more in the cell, so it will diffuse into the capillary blood. Now the capillary blood will have more amount of carbon dioxide, and we know that the blood with higher concentration of carbon dioxide is called as impure or deoxygenated blood. So that means now the blood which is in capillaries, after the exchange, now it has become deoxygenated, right? Now these capillaries, you can see that they are joining and they are forming the small vessels. These small vessels are called as venules, and these venules combine to form the smaller veins. Then we have the bigger veins, and we get to see the two important veins formed in the body, right? One main vein is formed on the upper part, right, which carries the impure blood from the upper part of the body to the heart, and one vein is formed from the lower part, one main vein which carries the impure blood from the lower part of the body to the heart, right? So the vein, the bigger vein which is formed in the upper part, which is carrying the impure blood, that is called as superior vena cava. And the one which is formed from the lower side, which is carrying the impure blood from the lower side and bringing it to the heart, that is called as inferior vena cava. And this we have already discussed, that there are two important veins, two largest veins formed in the body. One is superior and another is the inferior vena cava. So these veins carry the impure blood and they pour their secretion into right atrium. This also we have already discussed, that the right side deals with deoxygenated blood. That is the reason the veins are bringing the deoxygenated blood and pouring it into the right atrium. Now again, the same thing which happened on the left hand side is going to happen on the right hand side. That is, as the blood flows, the volume increase, the pressure increase, due to which the tricuspid valves present on the right side, they open up and the blood from the right atrium flows into the right ventricle. Again, when the blood flows from the right atrium to the right ventricle, as the volume increase, the pressure increase, and the pressure always acts downward, right? So due to this, the tricuspid valve closes and the valve that is the semilunar valve, which is present in this vessel, which is running from the right ventricle, opens up, right? And this vessel, like as the blood volume increase in this vessel, so this semilunar valve gets closed and this vessel is taking the blood to the lungs for the oxygenation. So this is how the cycle repeats. I think you got it. That is the pure blood from the lungs to the left hand side, left atrium, left ventricle, then to aorta, then we have arteries, arterioles, capillaries, exchanges taking place, then we have venules, veins, bigger veins, pouring it into the right atrium, then again right ventricle, and then through a vessel to lungs. So this is how the blood is pumped by the heart to body cells, and this is how the impure blood reaches the right atrium, and from the right atrium to right ventricle and then to lungs for oxygenation. So this cycle keeps on repeating. I have explained you this flow chart in parts, that is we studied the left hand side first and then we came to right hand side, but actually left and the right side works together. Like at the same time, when the left atrium is pouring the pure blood into left ventricle, at the same time the right atrium pours the impure blood into the right ventricle. So both the sides, they function together. But in order to simplify, whenever you are asked to explain or you are explaining it to somebody else, or if you are just clarifying your own concept, study it in this manner, that is in a single direction, cover the whole pathway, and then you'll be able to answer in a better way. So I think you got it, right? So this is all about the working of heart. But we do have important things which are still left. So let's do that. I told you that the arteries carries the blood from the heart to the body cells, right? And the veins carry blood from the body cells to the heart, right? And I also told you that artery carries pure blood and the veins carry impure blood. But in case of this, we get to see two exceptional cases, right? We have to violate one thing. Like we told that, like we discussed, that arteries are moving away from the heart and veins are moving towards the heart. They are carrying the pure blood and they are bringing the impure blood. So we have the exception here. As you can see that when the blood is going from right ventricle to lungs, right? So that is the impure blood. So that has to be carried by the vein. So if I say that this is vein, so again that rule will be violated because we already discussed that this is the impure blood and this impure blood has to be carried by the vein, right? But it is going away from the heart. So here the exception lies. This is called as, exceptionally called as the pulmonary artery. It is called as pulmonary artery. So which rule we have followed here? The rule which we have followed, or the characteristic which we have kept in mind, is that the vessel which takes the blood away from the heart is always artery. So that is the reason it is exceptionally called as pulmonary artery, though it is carrying the impure blood, but still it is called as artery. And which type of artery? Pulmonary artery. Now, when the pure blood comes from lungs to left atrium, pure blood when comes to left atrium, it should come through artery, because we have discussed the arteries carries the pure blood. But again the exception lies here, it is a pulmonary vein, because here we have obeyed that concept that veins always carry the blood towards the heart, right? So these two vessels are exceptional. One is the pulmonary artery, which is taking the impure blood from the right ventricle to lungs, and other is the pulmonary vein, which is bringing the pure blood from the heart, from the lungs to the left atrium. So I think you got it. Now this kind of circulation is seen in a human being, and this circulation is termed as double circulation. Now this is again very important, that why the circulation is called as double circulation. See, in this case, when we studied the flow chart, we studied that the blood is flowing from the lungs to the heart, right? And then heart to tissue or a cell, then from cell or tissue to the heart, and then again from the heart to lungs. So the exchange of blood between the lungs and the heart is termed as pulmonary circulation. the exchange of blood between the lungs and the heart is called as pulmonary circulation. And the exchange of blood between the heart and the tissue or a cell, that is called as systemic circulation. Now, there are two types of circulations, pulmonary and systemic. That is the reason the circulation which is seen in a human being is called as a double circulation process, because it is a sum of systemic as well as pulmonary circulation. So this is very important, and in exam you can encounter a question like this: explain the double circulation process in man. So that means you need to explain the complete working of heart, and then after explaining it, you can just write and you can just make the flow chart like this, that as you can see the two type of circulations, that is the pulmonary and the systematic. That is the reason it is called as double circulation. And you can define it in a way: as blood flows twice through the heart, therefore the circulation is called as double circulation. So I think you got it. So this is all about the working of heart. So I think you know about the structure and also about the working of heart. Now we'll discuss, like after covering these topics, the complete heart rate, heartbeat. After covering these topics, we will be discussing about the important questions and the important knowledge boosters related to the heart. So for now, the heart structure and the working is over. So let's move on to the other terms which are associated with heart. Now let's learn about the few terms which are directly or indirectly associated with heart. So the first term I have for you is the heartbeat. What do we mean by heartbeat? Heartbeat means rhythmic contraction and relaxation of heart. It is the rhythmic contraction and relaxation of the heart. If we talk about infant, so it beats quite high and the rate is 90 to 190 times a minute. So that means heartbeat refers to rhythmic contraction and relaxation of heart. The second term I have for you is heart sounds. Have you ever noticed that if you have a certain kind of chest infection or you have certain problem, and when you visit the doctor make use of stethoscope in order to examine you, right, like this. So what he does, he puts this rubber pad, as you can see, which is attached to the electrode on your chest, and he tells you to breathe, right, you do a heavy breathing. So what happens when he just checks you, he actually listens to the heart sounds. He actually tries to listen to your heart sounds, that whether the heart is functioning proper or there is some problem, right? So we have heart sounds, that is the lub and dub. We have two heart sounds, one is lub, L-U-B-B, and the other is dub, that is D-U-B-B. So lub and dub are the heart sounds. Now the question must be arising in your mind that how these sounds are produced. Right. It's quite interesting to know that there is certain kind of heart sounds also. So they are there, and then the heart sounds are lub and dub. Now how they are produced? See, lub sound is produced as you saw the working of the heart. So we saw that the bicuspid and the tricuspid valve, they closes together. And when these AV septum valve closes, they produce the sound lub. So they closes at the same time. Now, similarly, when the semilunar of aorta and the semilunar of the pulmonary artery, they closes together, they produce the sound dub, right? So we have two heart sounds, one is lub and the other is dub. So I think it's clear and it's quite interesting also. Now moving on to the another term, that is the blood pressure. Now what is blood pressure? As the name suggests, it is the pressure with which the heart pumps the blood. And the normal BP, or you can say the normal blood pressure of an adult, is 120 by 80 mm of mercury. So this is the normal pressure, 120 mm of mercury, that is the pressure which is normal on the upper side, and 80 specifies that is the lower body pressure. So on an average, the normal adult has a blood pressure that is 120 by 80 mm of mercury. And we can also measure the blood pressure, and the instrument which is used to measure the blood pressure, that is called as sphygmomanometer. It is called as sphygmomanometer, and this is how it looks like. Now let's move on to the another procedure which is associated with the working of heart, and that is ECG. Now what do we mean by ECG? ECG means electrocardiograph. Right, it is not electrocardiogram, it is electrocardiograph. So this is how ECG looks like. So electrocardiograph, don't get confused by the name graph, it is not a graph, the graph name is given to the machine. So electrocardiograph is a machine which actually records the electric impulse which is generated in the heart. So it is the machine which can measure the intensity of the electric impulse that is generated in the heart. Right. So what happens if you encounter certain kind of problem, or there is improper functioning of heart, and whenever the doctor feels like your heart is not working properly, he can actually do this procedure, that is, he can ask you for the ECG. So what happens when you go for ECG, the patient is said to relax first. The patient is said to relax, right? Now we have this machine, and you can see that to this machine the electrodes are attached, right? So these are the electrodes as you can see them, right? So on the lower side of electrode we have the vacuum pads. You can see that these rubber pads are the vacuum pads. Now what actually we do in this procedure, the fixing gel is put on the vacuum pads, and the vacuum pads are attached to the chest of the patient with the help of fixing gel, right? So these are temporarily fixed, and the patient is said to relax. Now what happens when the patient relaxes, these electrodes actually picks up the electric signals, right? And these signals are recorded by the machine, and the output comes out in the form of paper. Now on that paper there are the certain, you can see the graph is obtained. So this graph indicates the ECG, and here the graph which is obtained, that is called as electrocardiogram. That is the strength of the electric signals which are there in the heart, or you can say which are produced inside the patient. So this kind of graph is obtained if the heart is functioning properly, right? But if there is any change in this set pattern, that means the heart is not functioning properly. And you might have noticed in the movies also that there are certain scenes when the patient is dying, and the actor or an actress, they focus on the machine which is kept just above the patient. Like if the patient is lying down, there is a certain machine which is placed there, and there are the signals which are shown in that machine. And sometimes when the patient dies, right, that actor dies, so what happens, the line becomes straight. So that straight line indicates that there are no more electric signals which are generated in the heart. So whenever the signal becomes like this, that is the straight line, that means there are no electric signals found in that patient, and at that stage the patient is said to be dead, right? So heart beating, heart rate, functioning, working of heart, that is very important, because when your heart is functioning, that means you are alive, right? And when the heart stops functioning, means we are dead or somebody is dead, right? So heart plays a very, very important role. So I think you got all about the heart, the working, the structure, the terms, the processes which are related to heart. So with this we finish this part, that is the heart, its working, its structure, and the important terms and the procedures which are linked to the heart. Now let's study about the another circulating system, that is the lymphatic system. So in the beginning I told you that there are two systems which are involved in the transportation of substances. One we have already done, that is the blood circulatory system, and other we are going to start now in this part, that is the lymphatic system. So this is how the lymphatic system looks like, right? So lymphatic system basically consists of, you can see that there are vessels also, right? There are thin walled vessels, that is lymph capillaries also. We have the lymph nodes, and the fluid that flows inside is called as lymph. So we will take up one by one in detail. So first of all, I would like to tell you about lymph. that how lymph looks like and what is actually the function of lymph. So basically, the lymph is yellow color fluid. It is just similar to the plasma of the blood. As we already did that when we studied the composition of blood, we spoke about the plasma. So likewise, here in this case, lymph is just like the plasma. It also carries a lot of substances. But how the lymph is formed? Actually, what happens, some of the plasma diffuses out from the blood capillaries into the intracellular spaces, right? So that plasma, when escapes out into extracellular spaces, it is called as lymph. It is called as lymph. And how it looks like? It is yellow in color, right? So lymph is the fluid like blood, but blood is red, it contains plasma and the blood cells. And here if we talk about lymph, it is yellow in color and it is actually the plasma. Like its composition is similar to the plasma, but it is that plasma which has escaped out from the blood vessels, right? So what happens? This lymph enters into the lymph capillaries. This lymph enters into the lymph capillaries. Now, if we compare the lymph capillaries with the blood capillaries, we'll notice that lymph capillaries are also very thin walled, but they are blunt at one end. Like when we spoke about the blood capillaries, so it was not blunt. We had arteries, we had veins, and at the junction, they were connected by means of capillaries. But here in this case, lymph capillaries are distributed all over, but they are blunt at one end. That means one end is closed. Now, what happens? Lymph capillaries unite to form the vessels. So these are lymph vessels. And what we see is, like within the lymph vessels, we get to see certain nodes. Those nodes looks like this and they are called as lymph nodes. Now, what is there in the lymph nodes? Lymph nodes contain the special cells that are called as lymphocytes. What name is given to them? They are lymphocytes and they resemble somehow the WBCs, and even their function is similar to the WBC. That is, they also help in eating the foreign particles, removing the foreign particles. So they also function like the WBC does. So we have, I think you got it, we have lymph capillaries, we have lymph vessels, we have lymph nodes, and inside the nodes we have the lymphocytes, which actually cleans the lymph. That is by engulfing the foreign particle. And within these capillaries and the vessels, which substance is flowing? That is called as lymph. Now the question is, what is the function of lymph? What does it do for us? Right? So lymph performs two important functions. First function is that it carries the digested and absorbed fat to the intestine. So this is the major function which is performed by the lymph. And if we look on the another function, so another function that the lymph perform is that it helps in draining the excess fluid from the extracellular spaces into the blood. Right, so these are the two important functions that lymph actually performs for us. That is, the lymphatic system is performing for us. So I think you got it. So this is all about the lymphatic system.